What if I told you that the quietest week in Love Island USA history just turned into the loudest Nicolandria comeback we've ever seen? Because Nic and Olandria, yes, that Nic and Olandria, the couple who had every fan, every podcast, and every dating show watcher glued to their screen, have just pulled off the biggest power move of the season. While everyone was arguing about Ace, Taylor, and Cierra, the real story was unfolding right in front of us. Between Nic's surprise shoot with Strava, his courtside Knicks appearance, and Olandria's Sweetgreen clip that had half the fandom screaming, "Soul ties confirmed," it's official. Nicolandria has entered their power era. And the wildest part? None of it happened on the show. This is the new chapter. Love Island without the villa, drama without producers, and strategy that even reality TV editors couldn't script. Before we dive in, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It's free. It boosts your serotonin, and honestly, it's the best way to stay updated before Nic and Olandria drop another bombshell while you're still scrolling TikTok. Let's rewind for a second. Before the paparazzi flashes, before the brand deals, before the fandom even had a name, back to the villa. When Nic and Olandria first met on Love Island USA Season 7, no one could have predicted what was coming. Sure, there was instant chemistry without editing tricks. It wasn't forced. It wasn't for the camera. It was just natural. Nic, with his calm confidence and that "I'm not trying too hard, but everyone still notices me" energy, instantly stood out. Olandria, on the other hand, was the definition of poise, funny, grounded, and impossible to read. Together, they became the villa's unspoken main characters. Even when they weren't in the center of the drama, the camera found them anyway. But what made Nicolandria different wasn't just chemistry, it was curiosity. You couldn't quite pin them down. One day they were flirting by the pool, the next they were in deep conversation about loyalty and life after fame. The audience could sense it. This wasn't another throwaway showmance. There was tension. There was patience. There was a kind of unfinished story between them.
And then came the moment that changed everything. When Casa Amor split the Islanders, fans expected chaos. But instead of playing the usual game, Nic and Olandria shocked everyone by holding their ground. They didn't fold. They didn't chase drama. Their quiet loyalty spoke louder than any confession ever could. From that moment on, Nicolandria stopped being just a couple. It became a concept, a storyline that felt too real for TV. The fandom picked up on it instantly. Edits, hashtags, TikToks, you name it. The internet had found its new obsession. But what no one realized back then was that this connection, born under the lights of a dating show, was about to evolve into something far bigger than anyone expected. Because once the camera stopped rolling, Nicolandria wasn't done. In fact, that's when the real story began. But as soon as the villa gates closed and real life began, the perfect TV couple had to face a question that no one could answer for them. Can love survive outside the edit?
At first, it was all fun. Red carpet photos, fan edits that went viral overnight, podcasts calling them the only couple with chemistry that didn't need a script. Their reunion interviews broke view count records, and every time they appeared together, at airports, at restaurants, even in casual TikToks, the comments were pure chaos. They're the real deal. They're just doing this for clout. Why do they look too happy? The fandom had officially split into two camps, the believers and the truthers, and that division only fueled their growth. Nic wasn't just being followed by paparazzi anymore, brands were calling. His Strava shoot, the first hint that he was transitioning from reality star boyfriend to main character energy. Olandria's situation wasn't any quieter. Within weeks, she'd gone from villa favorite to full-blown brand darling. Partnerships with EOS, Sweetgreen, and even subtle nods in fashion circles proved she wasn't just living off nostalgia. She was building a brand. And together, they became something bigger than a couple. They became a movement.
Nicolandria Nation started as a few fan pages,
But soon, it was thousands of people dissecting every emoji, every repost, every caption. Twitter threads turned into think pieces. TikTok edits became documentaries. You couldn't scroll for 5 minutes without seeing their faces somewhere. But the more the fandom celebrated them, the more the outside world began to test them. Because with fame comes curiosity, and curiosity turns into speculation. Nick was spotted at a New York Knicks game, alone. Instantly, Twitter decided they'd broken up. Olandria reposted a cryptic TikTok about choosing peace over people, and the fandom went nuclear. Every move became a headline. Still, through all of it, there was one constant. They never over-explained. While everyone else was performing their relationships online, Nic and Olandria stayed quiet, strategic, mysterious. That silence made them even more interesting. They understood something most reality show couples never figure out. You don't need to speak to stay relevant, you just need to move smart. And that's exactly what they did.
But then came the twist that no one saw coming. When one cryptic post and one surprise campaign made everyone wonder, were Nic and Olandria really still on the same team? It started with a photo. One perfectly lit, seemingly harmless campaign shot, and within hours, the entire Love Island USA fandom was in flames. Olandria appeared in a new promotional shoot that didn't just look like another ad, it looked like a message. The campaign featured her in a glossy, cinematic setting, with another model leaning close, whispering something that had Twitter screaming, "Is that Nic's replacement?" The internet did what it does best. It overanalyzed every frame, the hand placement, the lighting, even the captions. Fan accounts were zooming in like it was evidence from a crime scene. Theories exploded. It's a breakup announcement. She's trolling the fandom. It's a rebrand. She's going solo. Turns out, none of those were completely right. Because what Olandria was doing wasn't emotional. It was strategic.
This wasn't heartbreak. It was marketing genius. Behind that photo was a partnership with Sweetgreen, tied to a narrative about self-care, independence, and owning your power. The fact that people read it like a breakup only made it more viral. Meanwhile, Nic, calm as ever, stayed silent. No posts, no cryptic captions, no comments. Until one day he popped up again, dressed to kill, walking into a Strava shoot with a wired mic and a smirk that said, "I'm not pressed, I'm booked." That's when the fandom realized something. They weren't watching a breakup, they were watching a brand evolution. Nic and Olandria weren't distancing themselves from each other, they were expanding, building individual lanes that fed into one shared spotlight. He was stepping into sportswear and performance branding. She was claiming lifestyle and beauty. Together, they were building a luxury love economy. And when fans noticed that both their campaigns dropped in the same week, Olandria's Sweetgreen ad and Nic's Strava collab, theories shifted again. Suddenly, the breakup rumors turned into something new. What if this is a soft launch of their joint empire?
It made sense. Timing that precise isn't accidental. Nic and Olandria were no longer just a couple from Love Island USA, they were entrepreneurs, curating their public image one campaign at a time. But while the fandom obsessed over ads and symbolism, something else was happening behind the scenes. The silence between Nic and Olandria started to feel different, calculated, too perfect. Because for every successful rollout, there's always a little chaos waiting in the shadows. And that chaos came fast, when one unexpected name from the villa suddenly stepped back into the picture, threatening to change everything we thought we knew about Nicolandria. Just when Nicolandria seemed untouchable, when the campaigns, the press, and the fan edits painted them as the ultimate post-villa success story, someone from their past decided to re-enter the conversation. Enter Cierra Ortega. Now, if you've been following since Love Island USA Season 7, you already know the history. Cierra wasn't just another Islander. She was part of the early mix, one of the first people to form real emotional connections before the Villa's alliance is solidified. Back then, her story with Nick was brief but charged. Started posting less, and for a while it looked like she'd left the chaos behind. But silence in this fandom doesn't last forever. Because a few weeks after Nic and Olandria's matching campaign week, Cierra dropped what the fandom now calls the soft shade. A simple story, a song lyric about giving your best to people who never saw your worth. No names, no context, but fans didn't need either. Within minutes, the comments were flooded. "This is about Nick. She's still not over him. Why bring this up now?" The internet loves a triangle, and suddenly, Cierra was back in the narrative she'd been written out of.
Then things got even messier. At a brand event in LA, she mentioned in passing that she still keeps in touch with a few people from the villa, one of them being Nick. It was casual, maybe even innocent, but the fandom didn't take it that way. Screenshots, reaction videos, edits, the whole timeline was once again divided between Team Nicolandria and Team Cierra. Olandria, for her part, stayed silent. No comments, no cryptic likes, no indirects. But that silence spoke volumes, because when she finally did post again, a single mirror selfie with the caption, "Peace looks good on me," it was game over. The internet declared it a victory post. The message? She's unbothered. She's moved on. She's winning. And Nick? He played it cool, as always. At a Knicks game one night, casually courtside, smiling, relaxed, fully booked, and most importantly, not explaining a thing. That's when fans realize something. The chaos only fuels them. Every rumor, every shade, every tweet just keeps their names trending. Cierra might have reopened old wounds, but she also reminded everyone why Nicolandria works, because even when the world tries to pull them apart, their silence always speaks louder than words.
But this was just the calm before the next storm, because right after the Cierra situation cooled off, another name from the villa would resurface. This time, bringing receipts no one saw coming. And when those receipts dropped, they didn't just test Nicolandria's image. They changed how the entire fandom viewed Love after the villa. If there's one thing every Love Island USA fan knows, it's that Ace doesn't do quiet. From the villa days to his podcast era, Ace has always had something to say. And when he talks, the fandom listens. So, when he suddenly decided to address the situation on his live stream, without saying any names, of course, everyone knew exactly who he was talking about. He started light, joking about certain islanders getting brand deals faster than they got closure. The chat went wild. Then he dropped the line that broke the internet. Some people left the villa with love. Others left with a PR strategy. That one sentence hit harder than any recoupling twist. Within minutes, the clip was everywhere. TikTok, Reddit, even Instagram fan pages with slow-motion edits and dramatic music. The implication was obvious. Ace was calling out Nicolandria, suggesting that their relationship wasn't love, it was leverage. But here's where things got interesting.
Instead of clapping back or posting some dramatic statement, Nick stayed silent. And if you've been following Nicolandria long enough, you know that silence from him is never random. It's precision. He knows when to talk and, more importantly, when to let others talk themselves out. Olandria, meanwhile, did something even more powerful. She kept working. Within the same week Ace's clip went viral, she dropped her new EOS partnership. The campaign was calm, clean, and classy. Her in a spa setting, talking about self-care, wellness, and confidence. No drama, no subtext, just success. And guess what happened? The narrative flipped overnight. Instead of being dragged into the mess, Nicolandria came out looking untouchable. Fans started calling it the soft flex era. Tweets read things like, "Ace is talking, Nicolandria is bagging deals."
You can't cancel silence. They're playing chess while everyone else is yelling checkers. Nick even appeared briefly on a vlog from the Brooks Marathon shoot, saying, "I just focus on what feeds me, not what drains me." A direct quote or a coincidence? We'll never know, but the timing was perfection. And suddenly, Ace's comments, which were supposed to expose them, only made them stronger, because nothing fuels the Nicolandria brand like underestimation. They've built a public image that thrives on mystery. You can question their relationship, but you can't deny their consistency. You can shade their motives, but you can't ignore their momentum. And that's exactly why every time someone tries to take them down, they just climb higher. But while Nic and Olandria mastered the art of quiet dominance, the fandom was starting to realize something deeper. Their love story wasn't just about romance anymore. It was about control, image, and the unspoken rules of fame. By now, it's clear. Nicolandria isn't just a couple. They're a blueprint, a living, breathing case study in how modern fame really works. See, most Love Island USA couples vanish the moment the cameras stop rolling. The followers drop off, the sponsorships dry up, and the post-villa glow fades faster than a summer tan. But Nic and Olandria? They broke the system. They treated fame like a business, not a phase. Everything they've done since the show has followed one golden rule. Move in silence, but make sure the results are loud. Let's break that down. First, the timing. Every move they make feels perfectly calculated. When Olandria drops a partnership, Nic posts something subtle, maybe a gym clip, a new shoot, or a quiet shout-out to staying disciplined. They're never competing for attention. They're alternating momentum. While one shines, the other recharges. Then they swap. It's like tag team fame. Second, the storytelling. They've built a narrative that no publicist could script. They're aspirational but relatable. Mysterious but grounded, separate enough to have their own worlds, but close enough to keep fans guessing. This is how you dominate the digital era, not by oversharing, but by curating what people don't know.
And then there's the community. Nicolandria Nation isn't just a fandom, it's a network. Fan edits, merch, group chats, inside jokes. They've created a world where followers feel like insiders. That's marketing genius disguised as romance. But here's the thing no one says out loud. When your love story becomes a brand, how do you keep it real? Because behind every perfectly timed post and every silent wink to the fans, there's pressure. The kind that turns relationships into PR chess matches. When you build your image on mystery, you can't afford mistakes or emotions that don't fit the brand. That's why Nicolandria fascinates people so much. They're walking the tightrope between authentic connection and controlled perception. And so far, they're doing it better than anyone else. But that balance, it's fragile. All it takes is one wrong post, one misunderstood comment, one paparazzi shot, and the narrative flips overnight. And lately, fans have started to notice small cracks. The fewer joint posts, the longer gaps between sightings, the moments where one is online while the other's gone dark. It doesn't mean trouble, but it means something shifting.
Maybe it's growth. Maybe it's a new phase. Or maybe it's the calm before the next viral storm. Because if history's taught us anything, it's this. When Nicolandria goes quiet, something big is coming. And that brings us to the final chapter, the question everyone's been asking since Olavember began. What's next for Nic and Olandria? Are we witnessing the evolution of a power couple or the prelude to a brand new beginning? So, here we are. Olavember in full swing, Nicolandria Nation louder than ever, and everyone asking the same question. What's next? Because after the brand deals, the silence, the cryptic captions, and the viral moments, what's left for Nic and Olandria to prove? Well, maybe the answer isn't about proving anything anymore. Maybe it's about positioning.
Right now, Nicolandria stands at a crossroads. They've already conquered the reality TV bubble. Now they're rewriting what happens after the villa. While other islanders are chasing influencer deals, they're playing a longer game. Nicolet's recent partnership with Brooks and his continued involvement in performance campaigns point toward a pivot into sports lifestyle branding. Meanwhile, Olandria's collaborations, from Sweetgreen to EOS, are quietly turning her into a household name in the clean beauty and wellness space. In other words, they're both building empires that don't depend on each other, but still orbit around one shared energy. That's rare. Most post-show couples crumble because they rely too heavily on the we. Nicolandria figured out how to thrive through me and you, and that's what keeps their us so powerful. But it's not just business. Behind all the speculation, there's still that undeniable chemistry. The same look they gave each other back in the villa, the quiet laughs caught on fan cameras, the subtle reposts that feel too timed to be accidental. They don't need to confirm anything. The tension is the confirmation. And that's why fans can't look away. Whether they're together, taking a break, or reinventing the definition of together, Nic and Olandria have done something no Love Island USA couple has done before. They've made the audience care about their story more than their status. Now the fandom watches not just for romance, but for evolution. For how two people who started on a dating show are slowly turning themselves into cultural brands.
Some say they're a modern-day case study in PR genius. Others say they're proof that love can survive the spotlight. Maybe they're both. Because in a world where every couple posts their highlight reel, Nicolandria built a legacy on the moments they don't show. And that's the secret. Mystery keeps the internet hungry. But one thing's for sure. Whatever happens next, they'll do it on their own terms. Whether it's a rebrand, a reveal, or another viral shockwave, Nicolandria's next chapter won't just trend, it'll define the next era of reality TV success stories. Because when you've turned love, strategy, and silence into an empire, the only real question left is, how do you top that? When you strip away the edits, the campaigns, and the speculation, what's left is something we rarely see in reality TV: longevity. Nic and Olandria didn't just survive Love Island USA Season 7. They transcended it. They took a format built on short attention spans and turned it into a 2-year-long case study in control, connection, and consistency. They've shown that you can come out of a dating show and still play the long game. Not by oversharing, not by clapping back, but by knowing your value and choosing your silence.
And maybe that's the real reason people can't stop watching them. Because deep down, Nicolandria represents more than romance. They represent discipline in the chaos. Two people navigating fame, pressure, and public opinion without letting the noise break them. Whether they're posting together or moving quietly in their separate lanes, they've already built something that outlasts every villa storyline. A legacy, one built on timing, strategy, and authenticity. So the next time you scroll past another "Are they still together?" tweet, remember this: Nicolandria doesn't need to answer. Their work already does. And as the fandom gears up for whatever comes next, a new brand drop, a surprise appearance, maybe even a complete rebrand, one thing's for sure: this isn't the end of Nicolandria. It's just the next phase. Because love, when it's smart and strategic, doesn't fade. It evolves. Before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It's free, it feeds the algorithm gods, and it guarantees you'll never miss the next Nicolandria twist. Because if there's one thing we've learned about these two, the moment you stop watching, they drop another bombshell.